Welcome back, everybody, to your Cre8tivity, and this will probably be our best sounding episode because we are in a professional podcasting studio.
Dylan, we always sound good.
We always sound great, but the audio quality might be at its best. The content is always quality, right?
No, our sound is on point. I mean, hustling kitchens in the background, banging pans, that's all style. It's
atmosphere.
Character.
Yeah, good point.
It might be the quietest background. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, maybe. So the silences will be extra impressive.
We'll have to bring some like bratty little kid into the other room and have them just yelling in the background.
There we go. Do you know any?
No, not yet. But
okay.
I mean, usually that's my job. So usually that's what I do in the background. So I'll work on it. I'll see what I can do for this one.
Well, Steve, you're my favorite brat, so there's that.
I'm not sure where to go with
that.
Is that a compliment or not?
Both. Anyway, we're at Rookery or Rookery Studio? Rookery. Where did that name come from?
Yeah, so our owner, Jimmy Rex, and this actually used to be his real estate office. And he always had wanted to have some sort of a business called Rookery, because Rookery, it's kind of the nesting ground of penguins or any other birds, hence the penguin logo, if you've seen it. And then when you walked in, the giant penguin. And so,
which I love.
Yeah, it's amazing. But that's kind of where the name came from. It's just it's a place where penguins nest.
Very nice.
I could nest here.
Yeah, it's cozy.
It's pretty comfortable.
It is. It definitely is. This room's my favorite one.
Okay, why is that?
The sound in here I really like. I mean, you look around and you've got the sound padding all over. When we walk out after we finish the episode, just talking from here to talking in the hallway, you'll feel a huge difference. And I just like that. Plus, the accent wall looks really cool with the
okay, now, did you put the sound tiles up yourself?
I did not. Those were done before I got here.
But you could have.
If I would have been about a month earlier, yes.
What about, do you have backup replacement, like, blocks, just in case? I mean, I could see them popping down. So do you have backup spares?
Stick them back up.
Well, they look pretty secure to me.
Dakota's pretty, like, nonchalant. Like, do you get riled up?
I guess in the right situation, yeah.
So when you realize that you're going to have to deal with my voice and like trying to edit the sound, you're going to be, okay, I've had enough. I'm going to like totally get rid of Steve. Steve's going to be on mute for this whole podcast. Oh my gosh. Well, tell us about you, Dakota.
Dakota Mahan?
Mahan. Is actually, yep.
Yeah. We have the same initials. We discovered that when I got your full name, yeah.
Because it's still
Mazziotti.
Mazziotti, okay. And is that Italian?
Italian, yeah.
Okay, very cool.
Most people say Mazziotti, but it's Mazziotti.
And that's with me. Most people say Mahan. I mean, just looking at it, that's the way it looks, and then it's Mahan.
Yeah, we don't have it all easy like Steve with Hatch.
I'm a mutt. So I don't even know my background. I'm a mutt. It's all right. I can take it. Wait, so were you from Utah originally?
I was born in Texas, but I moved when I was 3. Grew up most of my life here in Utah, so I'd consider myself Utahn. Yeah, for sure.
And have you always been interested in like podcasting, sound, and editing and all that?
No. I'm interested in
aviation.
Aviation is one, but watching things grow. Like I've loved growth, and building things. And so when I was really young, I would do woodworking, welding, just everything that I could build stuff. And I thought that that's what I loved. I just loved welding. I loved woodworking. I loved creating. And then it hit me probably about a year ago that I didn't love that part of it. I loved watching something go from like nothing to something, that building. And so you mentioned aviation. Yeah, I got my degree in aviation management, and I went and worked as the assistant airport manager at the Heber Valley Airport here.
Oh, cool.
Just up the road. And it was enjoyable, a great job, but I found out that it wasn't great for me because it's that building, that growth. And I realized that I started to kind of miss that. I craved watching and building things. So I found my way to working with Jimmy Rex and with this studio. And it's a business that I've kind of given.
How did you meet him?
So, like I said, I was at the Heber Airport, and like I said, I just realized that my goals had changed. Here I was. I spent 4 years getting my degree, and a couple months into my postgraduate career, realized this isn't it. And so I ended up putting in my 2 weeks notice. I went on a long hiking trip with a friend of mine, and just the whole time was thinking about, do I really want to keep doing this? I mean, it's a great career. It's stable. I've got benefits. It's amazing. But is it me? And so at the end of that trip, I put in my 2 weeks notice, not sure what I was going to do.
So you were kind of scared?
Kind of scared, very scared.
Scary thing. Yeah.
I actually went to my parents, and I saw them that weekend. Right before I put in my 2 weeks notice, I moved into my own apartment, and I had, just I had a job, so I was spending a lot more money than I should have. And so then I went to my parents and said, hey, what would you think if I left the airport to do something else? And I was like, I don't know how long it's going to take or what's going to come of it, but I've got a few plans, a few things that I think I can make work and that I want to make work. And amazingly, they just said, yeah, like if you feel like this is something that you want to do, go for it. And they were very supportive. That was great to have supportive parents for that. But I ended up approaching Jimmy Rex and said, hey, I'm interested in real estate. I don't want to be a real estate agent, but I know that you do a lot with house flipping. I know that you do a lot of investing. I'm interested in that. I just put in my 2 weeks notice. At this point, I had actually finished up my 2 weeks, so I was unemployed at that point. And I said, I've got 3 months that I can give you. I want to work for you for 3 months doing whatever. And then at the end of those 3 months, either if you want me, I've got a job. And then if not, well, I've got to use my remaining funds that I have saved to go out and actually find a job. And we shake hands, and that's that.
What was his response to that?
His response was, yeah, I'd love to have you work for me.
Because that's kind of scary to me.
Yes.
Like, I think I would be scared shitless. Like, I would just be kind of like, please let me come work for you? Like, to even get the nerve to go up and ask him.
Yeah, because that's the thing. I talked to him. I'd seen him at the gym maybe 2 or 3 times, and I just, in passing said, hey, what's up? And so, like, I didn't really know him, but I talked to him a little bit, and this was just an Instagram message that I said, hey, let me come, like, work for you. Like, I told him I'm not looking for a job. I'm looking to learn. It's kind of the thing. And that was the whole thing for the 3 months. I wanted to learn and then go out and do what I wanted to do. And he said, yeah, I've got a few things working. How are you with, like, audio and video? I need somebody to kind of take over my podcast production. On his personal podcast, The Jimmy Rex Show, if you've listened to that, it's one of the top business podcasts in Utah right now. And so I was like, you know what? Audio interests me. I've got a background in photography, so if we do anything with videography, it kind of, like, there's some background to build on, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah. He's like, well, me and my other partner, Brett, we're getting ready to open a full-blown podcast studio. Because the whole reason that he opened this, he's done, 350 episodes at this point, and he realized the cost that went into it, the technical expertise that's needed to make it sound good. And when he started out, he spent a lot of money doing it, and he still couldn't get it dialed in just right. And so he's like, I want to start this podcasting studio, and we are starting it. We need somebody who knows how to do it and to manage it and to kind of take care of that whole side of the business. And so I told him, yeah, 100%, like, I'm in, like, let's do it. And so I spent a whole bunch of time just poring over every study material that you can think of. I mean, all of the videos on YouTube for Premiere Pro, for Rode. They've got a lot of videos on their Rodecaster Pro. Sony's videos on video equipment and how the specific cameras that we use, settings on those. I went and shadowed a lot of people. I probably went and shadowed 6 video professionals that all do similar things. And then when I felt comfortable and when they felt comfortable, we ended up opening the studio fully in November. I think it was the week of Thanksgiving. So that's kind of where I come from and my background in it.
Okay, so then that was starting like with nothing, and then getting. So what even made you choose like the Sony cameras over something else, or the Shure mics? Were there reasons that you selected those?
So we selected these because they're kind of the industry best. You can always spend more money, but there's, at some point it's diminishing returns. Do you want to spend $3,000 on a microphone just for a minor little bit versus these Shure microphones that are still insanely good quality, and they are the standard for quality. As far as the cameras, I personally, when I do photography, I shoot on Canon. I really like how Canon looks on pictures. I'm familiar with all of their settings, and I just love using them. But when it comes to videography, I was a little bit new in that aspect, and I didn't know how to use my Canon as a video camera instead of photography. So that came from a lot of the shadowing that I went around and shadowed people.
What would be the biggest difference, like to the learning curve of going from just taking pictures to videoing? Because you're still using kind of the photographic background for the backgrounds, the settings, and everything.
That's true. The composition of it is going to be very similar. But some of the technical aspects are different. Lighting's going to be a little bit different. And so that's why I kind of went and shadowed people that knew more on this than I did. And everyone recommended Sony for video. Everyone that I talked to, they just raved on the Sony. So I did a little bit more research. And Sony's got S-Centone. It's a really great picture feature, and they recently came out with the Sony Fx3, which is now part of their Cine line, and they're great cameras. I think these are the only cameras that have a built-in fan, and so they don't overheat, right? And that's going to be a thing if we're doing podcast after podcast after podcast every single day. You have several hours that you're filming. You don't want your camera to overheat and to shut off. And so that was one huge thing about these specific cameras that I ended up choosing.
I never would have imagined that as a feature in a camera.
Yeah, and you can't even hear it. Like, they probably aren't running. Well, I don't know. We did a podcast right before, so they might be running now. But you can't ever even tell when the fan's running.
Amazing.
But who would even think of that crap? Like, I would not even think of like anything like that. Wow. So where do you see this going from here? How many podcasts have you guys recorded in the studio since November?
That I couldn't give you a number. It's
hundreds.
Probably not hundreds. 100 maybe. That seems more.
So
more
dozens.
Yeah.
How do people find you?
Word of mouth is a big one. Jimmy's got a large social following. The other partner, Brett, as well. And so just social media pushing out, hey, this is what we're doing. And for any of your listeners that are listening right now, if you're looking to start a podcast, come in and we'll give you guys a free session just for being the listeners of your creativity.
Thank you.
Your mom.
So
yeah, my mom is our one listener. She's 85. She might want to do her family history. She might want to come in and talk.
There you go. But I mean, I've seen your guys' Instagram. You've got like 2,000 followers roughly there. You've got to have more listeners.
Are we doing that good? Wow.
A lot of bots.
Yeah. A lot of bots.
Okay.
No, we haven't bought anything.
My mom's pretty good with the hacking.
Yeah, send her in. We'll get her podcast started and get her rolling.
Oh my gosh.
Are there plans for expansion, or are you just trying to kind of get it locked in here before even thinking about that, like Utah, Salt Lake location and whatnot?
Yeah, growth is always in the plans of I'd hope it would always be in the plans of any business, but it's definitely in the plans of our business. We obviously can't tell the future and where things will go, but with our current clientele and how things are picking up recently, I guess we'll see how things go. I mean, that there'd be a lot more costs associated with that. Right now we have 3 rooms at our studio, so if we get to a point that we're filling all 3 rooms consistently, or that we have clients that are constantly looking to be at a closer location to them, because right now we've got, I think, 2 to 3 that come down from Salt Lake, and then 1 from Tooele, and then plus some of them have co-hosts, so that's 6, 7, 8 people that are driving down. So if there's a larger demand for it, then that's something that I suppose we could always look into.
What would you say the pros of coming to somebody like you as opposed to doing it on your own?
Well, first of all, you don't have to do anything. Like, you just show up and you talk into the microphone. You don't have to know any of the technical aspects. That's a lot of the things that turn off new podcasters, right?
Right. Yeah, I didn't know anything at the beginning.
Yeah, and it's intimidating to get into it. It very much is. And so, I mean, that I would say is the biggest thing, is you have to do literally nothing except schedule a time and show up. We've got all the equipment, all of the rooms, all of the audio, video, everything. I mean, we've got notepads to write down any notes that you want in, water bottles. Like, you just show up, talk, and leave, and that's it.
Feels like being a guest, because it felt so weird not bringing any equipment to a remote podcast.
And what's your turnaround on that? So if we record this right now, how long does it take to get it edited and put back up?
That depends heavily on
how shitty of a host I am. So how much editing I'm going to need. Oh, yeah. Sorry. You're going to have to tell your parents that Steve swears.
That's just fine.
Give them a heads up.
It's your podcast, right?
Yeah. My mom's hearing. It's not as good as it used to be. So I'm just kidding.
No, turnaround, it depends heavily on how booked out the studio is. I obviously record. If I'm not in the studio, I'm out in the front room doing the editing on the recordings. So depending on how, I guess, backlogged we are with editing that needs to be done, it's going to be more or less, obviously. With one that we did today, I'm probably going to get it back to her sometime midday tomorrow, which is a lot quicker than I expected, because tomorrow morning we don't have as many. So tomorrow morning I'm going to be using that time to edit her podcast, get it back to her. But what I try to tell people, and what I'm really trying to get people on a schedule and fixed doing, is 1 week from when you want it posted. And I say that because that allows, plenty of time for if something happens, if somebody books last minute at a time that we weren't expecting anyone to be here and I was supposed to be editing. It just makes sure that we can get theirs recorded, edited, and posted, and still allow a little bit of time for, I guess, anything that might come up.
And then, so I know that you have had all different ranges of podcasts, like different extremes. So maybe a couple different things. What's the craziest podcast that you've had in here that you've hosted? Like the most bizarre topic. And then also, do you think that there's a pattern that would go into a successful podcast? Like, what would that pattern be, or that model? What do you think makes a successful podcast?
I'm going to go on your second question first, just because that's the first one that comes to my mind. The thing that's going to make a successful podcast is consistency. There's so many people that they start their podcast and then they post once, twice, 5 times, and then it's done, and then they think back to it and they go, oh yeah, I should record an episode, and then they do one a month later. And you've got to be consistent on your posting, get your listeners accustomed to, all right, I know they release every week or every other week. or they release on Tuesdays, whatever it is, find what works for you and keep it consistent. And the other thing I would say is a big part of it is the audio of it. I mean, that's what a podcast is you've got audio. Now times you've got it, you've got video, YouTube, and we do the video as well. But for a podcast, most of the listeners are going to be listening on platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, or Apple Podcasts, I guess. You've got to have that audio really dialed in. Nobody wants to listen to somebody's voice if it's got a whole bunch of background noise, and I'd say those two are the most important. The good sounding audio and consistency with what you're doing. And then your other question was...
Most bizarre guests
bizarre. Yeah, the craziest
that you've had.
Oh, that... I've been a fan of all of the podcasts that have come through here.
Suck up.
Oh. But no, like, everybody that's come through have all been like really grounded people who just, they know what they want to do and they just go through and put their heart into it. We do a lot of, I guess, business style podcasts. There's a few that we are doing for some of the Utah football players, Utah basketball players, BYU football players. And it's good for them because now, as of recently, collegiate athletes can start getting paid and sponsorships for that. And so it's a way for them to reach out to their audiences and get sponsorships that way. And so those are kind of the more unique ones just because now it's kind of new that...
but you're partial and you give discounts for the U of U players because you like them a little more than the BYU players? I'm just asking. I mean, I'm just wondering. And I would say this is more red than it is blue.
Yeah, this room.
So do you have a blue room as well?
The room just to the side of us is kind of like an off blue green kind of. So it's not BYU
so UV.
blue.
So it might be Utah Valley also.
Yeah, we could go in between there. It's a mix between Utah and BYU. There you go.
That's funny.
So are you a Utah fan?
Well, I mean, I like both, but I my shop is probably frequented by more U of U people than it is by BYU.
Which makes sense, being in Salt Lake.
Right, in Salt Lake and the Avs. Yeah. But, however, we do get the BYU people that will come up.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm not going to totally this, but I want them to be nice to the U of U students. So I'm just kind of trying to be a little protective.
There you go.
But that's all. That's it.
You've got different subscription packages for people who are, doing it regularly like they're supposed to. Tell us about those packages and what's included.
Absolutely. So, yeah, everything is set up on a subscription plan. And so you're going to pay monthly for the services. And right now we have 4 plans, 1 hour a month, 2 hours a month, 4 hours a month, and 8 hours a month. And I mean, 8 hours a month is...
That's a lot.
That's a lot. That's if you're doing, 2 1-hour episodes each week. That's a lot of time. And then on the other extreme, 1 hour a month, that's not a whole lot. That one was more put into place for people who do 15-minute episodes, just the shorter ones that people don't have a whole lot of time to listen to, or they don't have a whole lot of time to put into it. So if they were to do that, they could do 4 15-minute episodes a month at that price. And so the prices for those, if it's 1 hour a month, it'll be $150. If it's 2 hours a month, it's $270. 4 hours a month is $500, and 8 hours a month is $800. If anybody does go over the 8 hour a month plan, then we just bill hourly at $75 an hour. So as you use the studio and our services more, the price goes down per hour. And I guess to just kind of clarify that is your podcast time. Because we produce your podcast, we want to make sure that you get your actual podcast time for what you pay. So if you come in and you record after I go and edit it and post it, it's 45 minutes. Well, you've got 45 minutes that you've used, not an hour, or you've used 30 minutes instead of 1 hour, whatever it is. You pay for your podcast production.
Have you found a sweet spot for what the length of a podcast should go? I joke with Dylan. I kind of have ADD. So at the hour mark, I'm kind of glossing over. And so, like, I'm tuned out. It doesn't matter the guest. But have you found, like, sweet spots of what a podcast should go?
You're going to cater to your audience, obviously. If your audience loves, I mean, like Joe Rogan, one of the most popular podcasts, if not the most popular podcast out there. And his episodes are like, 3 and 4 hours sometimes? Like, they're insane, but he still rakes in millions of listens. And so you're going to have to cater to your audience and what they want. Me personally, I'm with you, Steve. I like the 45-minute mark is like my ideal. If it's 40 to 50, that's perfect. Once it gets to, 1 hour and above, it just feels like it's just dragging on more and more. But then again, if the content is good and people are continuing to be engaging and entertaining, and they're bringing points that I want to listen to, then I guess why not?
What podcasts do you listen to? Or which ones do you find that you tune
Your
into?
Cre8tivity.
Cre8tivity.
Besides the Your Cre8tivity one, we know that's your top pick because we have thousands of subscribers. Again, my mom's good with the bots. So, but who do you listen to?
So, I guess, first of all, I listen to everybody that comes through here, listen to their podcasts, obviously, as I go through and edit them and then post them and make sure that everything went through and sounded properly. But just, I guess, on my personal time, I've listened to less podcasts now than I used to, just because I'm putting so much of my time going through and editing and listening to them.
Enough.
Anyway, yeah. I'm tapping out at that point, right? If I've had a long day. But the ones that I typically listened to in the past, and still on occasion will, if it's before bed or something, I'll toss on. They were either kind of like a business mindset style podcast, or I've liked some that were produced by I don't know if it's NPR that produces some of them, but there's some 99% Invisible that was pretty good. Like, it just teaches you stuff, like learning things. Ridiculous History I'd like to listen to because it just goes over parts of history that you never even knew were a part of history, and I love that. I like history. Those are kind of like the real base ones that I like, just things that I'm gonna learn from, whether it's personal learning or if it's just kind of like a fun thing. There's one called Stuff You Should Know. It's a pretty popular one, and I remember I was out just for a walk maybe week or two ago, and I turned on that one, and it was just an episode on ants. That's interesting. They just went through all of why ants are unique and what's cool about them, and I don't know, just fun, interesting things like that. I just like to learn that stuff.
Do you see the future of podcast? I mean, we have the cameras here. Do you see it being a combination of the sound and the cameras as it progresses?
Yeah, absolutely. You already see it changing now on social media. There's so many people who are on podcasts, and then they take those video clips and trim them up, add some captions to them, and post those on their Instagrams, their TikToks, all of their socials. And it's a way for them to get out there more, get in front of people and show them who you are, kind of some things that you say and believe. And so I think that the video is a big aspect of it right now. And it's only going to keep getting bigger and bigger with time.
Yeah, like my interview with the guy from Ted Lasso. I didn't think that video was going to get that many views. It's almost at 30,000 now.
Wow.
Yeah.
And here you are saying you've got one listener.
Again, my mom is great with bots.
Great with bots.
She has a lot of time. A lot of spare time. Her and the nursing home people, they can each create bots.
Yeah. What situations are most creative for you? You like building and learning and that kind of stuff. When you need to create something or, build something, what kind of situations are most creative?
I wouldn't say it's the situation. I feel like I can be creative in any situation, but I have to start. Like if I'm sitting there waiting for a great idea or something to just come to me, for me, it just doesn't work that way. I've got to just get in and start doing something. For example, going back to when I was younger and I was into like welding and woodworking and stuff, me and my friends wanted to build something. And I mean, you can't just like creatively think on the spot, right? At least I can't. And so we're like, well, let's just start building something and it will come to us in the midst of it. And so we ended up just grabbing a whole bunch of stuff at one of the secondhand thrift stores. We got some water skis, a chair, a bike. We just grabbed a bunch of stuff, started chopping it up. What we turned it into was we attached the chair onto 2 water skis, chopped off one of the water skis and attached that to the bike, and then attached the bike to the chair. So it was kind of like, imagine like a bike, but with an actual chair that you're sitting in attached to water skis, and the front handle moved the front ski that was only like, I don't know, 1.5 feet long. And we're like, we don't know what this is, but it's cool. And we ended up taking it down it was snowing, so we ended up taking it down a bunch of snow slopes and stuff. And it worked a lot better than we thought, because when you turn the handlebars, the ski didn't just go left to right. It went left and then cut, or it went right and then cut. And so like actually sharp turns and stuff down. And like it was a very, very creative, fun thing.
Oh, wow.
But it's not that I was like in the space to find that creativity. I just started doing something, and then the act of actually doing led to being more creative. If that makes sense to you guys. Yeah,
that's awesome. Throughout your life, who's inspired you?
That's a good question. My grandpa has always been a big inspiration to me. He's taught me a lot of what I know. And my parents divorced when I was 3, I believe. And ever since that time, I've always lived within half an hour from my grandparents. So my grandpa kind of took on that role of a father figure in my life, and he taught me a lot of everything, mechanics and building. And he was the one who I'd always go over and use his welder. And when I was in 3rd grade, my mom met my stepfather, he's my father to me. He would also be an inspiration as well. I've helped him build. Now they're building their 2nd house. My grandparents just built their 6th, I don't know. And so just learning from them and the people that they are, I'd say both my father and my grandfather are huge inspirations in my life.
That's awesome.
Going back to, what are some of the biggest mistakes or the lessons that you've learned in both life and podcasting? What are the biggest mistakes people can make, or that you've seen?
In life and podcasting?
Sure. I mean, just what you've experienced, or lessons that you've learned from that. Like you talked about making that ski. You probably made many mistakes to get to that point. What did it teach you?
To just keep going. I mean, is it really a mistake? I mean, sure, it may not have turned out the way that you wanted it to, but it's still something, right? It still has some sort of a use, even if that use was just to teach you how to improve next time. So I'd say that just, stick with it. The determination, and it goes back to the consistency with podcasting, right? Stick with it. Because are you doing this for other people and what they think and what they hear? Or are you doing it for you? Like, did you guys start this podcast for other people, or did you start it for you?
Why the hell are we doing this?
For me.
Yeah, we're doing it for Dylan.
You're just along for the ride. It's all for me. I just want to meet cool people all the time. So that's it.
Yeah.
But I love how you said that about mistakes, because I agree. I mean, I don't see them as flaws. I see them more as opportunities and just lessons that you learn. So I loved that you said that. That's great.
Yeah. And I mean, sometimes it is hard to think that way, because I mean, something bad, terrible happens, whatever it is that you were at fault for, and you're thinking, yeah, like, I just wish I would have done it this different way, and you kind of regret stuff, right? But I mean, that's just kind of life. You just have to stick with it and go with it. And yeah, that to me, that mindset makes more sense. Even on the days that it is hard to think that way, it just makes so much more sense than to live your life thinking that there are all of these big mistakes. It's just life. You just got to keep going through it, right?
Totally agree.
Everything happens for a reason.
For sure.
I got deep there.
I think we
should we do bonus questions?
Yeah.
Bonus questions. That sounds fun.
What does your creativity mean to you? Or what does creativity mean to you?
What does creativity mean to me? Doing what I want to do. Like, I feel like it can't be creative if it's forced. It has to be something that I want to do, right?
Yeah.
So, if I told you guys to go out and to weld and to make this bike, it's not going to be as creative.
It's going to be a disaster. I'm going to just like burn stuff. Like, so yeah.
Yeah. So to me, creativity is just me doing what I want to do. I think that's the best way I could summarize it.
I'm a similar way. I can't be doing the same stuff all the time. It just eats away at my soul. So I'm glad I have creative outlets like this.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the perks of working here at the studio is that, yeah, I'm doing the same thing with editing, but it's different every time. I'm hearing all of the different stories, all of the different podcasts, and so it's not...
meeting different people all the time.
Yeah, exactly, all the people coming in and out. I mean, Britt, when she was walking out, you guys were able to talk and introduce yourselves, and I mean, it's like that every day. So that's nice.
That's cool.
The next bonus question is, who's your favorite Muppet and why?
Ooh, all right. So I haven't been huge into like movies or videos or stuff. So for reference, I am 25 years old, just turned 25, and my generation is like big into Harry Potter, right? That was kind of their thing.
Yeah.
I had not seen it until like a year or two ago, something like that. My friends were talking. They're like, "Oh, you haven't seen Harry Potter? You have to." Same with Star Wars. I've never watched Star Wars. I've never seen a lot of the Disney movies, like the original Lion King and all the stuff that I should have watched growing up. I was outside climbing trees and building stuff, and I just didn't spend much time watching. So I've never actually really watched the Muppets. So the only two that I'm aware of are Kermit and Miss Piggy. And so out of those two, I would say I'm going for Kermit out of those two.
There we go.
Process of elimination, default, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Every once in a while we get an answer like that. It's like, I didn't really watch him. I don't know. But Kermit's a good one. And then the last one, and this will be an interesting answer too. In the movie of your life, who would you like to play you? Because you sing so few things, it's like, it'd be interesting to see who you pick. Well, they'd have to pull off that mustache. So
that's the thing, this mustache, I usually don't have a mustache. I usually have stubble about what I have right here. That's kind of my standard, typical, similar to what you've got going on now.
I'm lazy.
Yeah, it makes it simple to just put on a guard and buzz it, keep it. It's very simple to take care of.
Yeah.
I've done a mustache that was like this 2 years ago, and it was just kind of an experiment. Like, you know what? I'm gonna do a mustache. Why not? So I did it and got it, all poofed up and got it going. And then I shaved it after, I think, 2 months. And I was like, this is too much.
Yeah.
And ended up calling it there. But this year, I don't know, something changed. And back in...
It's COVID.
December. It was in December. Yeah, in December, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do the mustache again. So I shaved and I've just been keep going with it. But usually I don't have this. Like maybe the next time you see me, it will be gone. Like it's just one day I'll just wake up
Just
and
a
be like,
playful thing, yeah.
just don't want it anymore. So yeah, I wouldn't say that the mustache is a
big trait, yeah.
requirement
Yeah.
for the actor, but for the going back to it, the actor that would play me, I do really like Matthew McConaughey. I don't think that he would be the right fit for me, but I love him as an actor. I read his book recently, Green Lights, an amazing book, goes through his life. Someone that I feel would fit my style and could do it well would either be Matt Damon or Chris Pratt. I don't know, kind of between those two. If we're going for big names, right?
Yeah.
Those two I feel like I'd connect most with and would bring out me best in a role. So I'd go with those two, either Matt Damon or Chris Pratt.
I could see the Matt Damon more because he can be a little more reserved in his characters
That's true.
than Chris Pratt.
Do you regret leaving the airport job?
No, I don't. And I left on great terms. I made sure everything was going well and that they were in a place that I could do that. But no, I don't regret that at all. I don't regret joining them either. I was actually there part-time throughout school for a year and then like 6 months-ish after graduation. And I loved every minute of it. But one day I just woke up and just realized that it's not it. Like there's more to my life than what I could do there. I felt like I'd achieved my purpose at the airport. I'd put in what I could put in there, and that there was more elsewhere. So no, I don't regret starting. I don't regret staying for the time I did. I don't regret leaving. The more things that I regret in life are things that I haven't done. And so if I hadn't left the airport and we were still somehow sitting down talking about this, that might be a different conversation. I may have regretted that. And I've noticed that in my life, that I hardly regret the things that I do, but I regret the things that I haven't done a lot more.
Where do you see the Rookery in 10 years?
Ooh, in 10 years.
5 years, 10 years?
I'd love it to be a national thing in bigger cities. We could have one here and then in Salt Lake and Denver, and just kind of expanding around, because nobody is really offering this. We are the only studio in Utah that does everything, right? There's studios that you can go bring your own equipment and record. There's studios that you can rent their equipment and record in their rooms or other rooms. But nobody takes you from start to finish of your podcast. Nobody out there, specifically in Utah, can you walk in and say, I want to start a podcast, and that day will get you going. And so I would love to have it be a national thing in larger cities that we could expand to. And I would also love to eventually start including more services that would correspond differently with different prices. That would we connect you to sponsorships. We can connect you to guests. If Steve and Dylan, if you come to me and say, hey, I'm having a hard time, I want a guest on my podcast that has something to do with this or is in this realm, or just somebody way out there and wild. Like I need one of these guests, then we can connect you that way. So that's really where I'd love to see the Rookery going, is multiple locations and services on top of what we already include.
And maybe just to end it, how can people find you?
So people can find us online and on our Instagram. It's rookerystudio.com for the website.
Studios, it goes to a weird blog thing.
Yeah, yep, they had that domain. That's why it was. And then our Instagram is Rookery Studios. It's easy to tell which one we are. It's the logo with a penguin. And you can send us a message directly on Instagram, and we'll get back to you, and we'll get you guys in here for a free episode, or just help you out with your podcast any way that we can.
And we met you through the Utah Podcast Coalition. You were at the one we went to last week. And so I urge people to go check that out too, the monthly meetings there, if you're starting or thinking about a podcast, to go there.
I'd echo that too, because I mean, it was a great turnout. I think we had like 35, 36 people there.
That's the fullest I've seen it.
Yeah, I was talking to Steph afterwards, and she said, yeah, this was our best turnout, and we're only going more from here. And that's the thing, podcast is getting so big right now. Like, everybody has to have a podcast, right? And I think everybody should have a podcast. I need to start my own personal podcast, but I mean, spending so much time here, it's hard for me to justify that at this point.
So many questions with that, because now I'm like, what would you start? What is your podcast?
I already know what my podcast would be. So it would be...
Wait, no. Okay, don't tell them. We'll talk after.
Yeah. I just think that there's so many, and everybody should have a podcast.
Or two. We each have two. This one and our other ones.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Well, I don't even know what the hell my other one is.
It's your talk show, but we make it into audio, so it's a podcast too.
I have my own desk.
I don't have my own desk.
Dakota, thank you.
Yeah, Dakota, thank you.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciated it. It was fun to be on the other side of the equipment this time.